Asian stock markets. WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal.
And my name is Hemkaur Suran. On the show today, in the backdrop of the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the United Nations top official on sexual violence in conflict has put forth some chilling findings, saying, and I'm quoting here, that there is clear and convincing information that sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture and cruel, inhumane and degrading treatment have been committed against hostages. They've also added that there's reasonable grounds to believe that such acts may still be continuing against those who have been held captive in Gaza. They've also pushed for a ceasefire. We'll get you all the findings and the details of this report on the show today.
Right. Also on World DNA this morning, US President Joe Biden has rolled out a sweeping $7.3 trillion budget request for the year 2025 with a set of proposals aimed at raising taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Well, the budget proposals announce new spending on social programs to help the middle class. It will also focus on that front. Lots more lined up on the show this morning, but first, the headlines.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to witness Bharat Shakti, a synergized demonstration of indigenous defence capabilities in the form of a tri-services live fire and maneuver exercise in Rajasthan's Pokhran today.
Ishaq Dar becomes Pakistan's foreign minister as President Asif Ali Zardari administers the oath to the 19-member federal cabinet of newly elected Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval meets Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, discusses regional developments and the urgent need to address the issue of humanitarian assistance in Gaza.
Repeated calls for ceasefire and release of hostages in Gaza at the UN as the world body discusses the sexual violence allegations.
President Joe Biden unveils his policy vision for the United States, announces a $7.3 trillion spending wish list that is as much an election year pitch to voters as a policy proposal.
Former US President Donald Trump will not give money to help Ukraine fight Russia if he wins the presidency again, and that will hasten an end to the ongoing war, says Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban after meeting him.
Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka overpowers Emma Raducanu to reach the fourth round at the Indian Wells. Reigning US Open champion Coco Gauff also advances to the last 16. All right, to begin with, the United Nations Special Representative of Sexual Violence in Conflict informed the UN Security Council that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the conflict-related sexual violence, including rape and gang rape, occurred on the 7th of October.
We found that there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence, including rape and gang rape, occurred in at least 3 locations, namely the Nova Music Festival site and its surroundings, Road 232, and Kibbutz Reim. In most of these incidents, victims were first subjected to rape, then killed.
UN's top official on sexual violence in conflict also said that her team found clear and convincing information that sexual violence have also been committed against the hostages.
In terms of findings on sexual violence, we found clear and convincing information that sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, have been committed against hostages, and we have reasonable grounds to believe that such violence may still be ongoing against those in captivity.
Now, Patton's team visited Israel between the 29th of January and the 14th of February. Their mission was to gather, analyze and verify information on sexual violence linked to the 7th of October attacks. However, Pramila Patton said that these findings are not enough for hostages to continue, as she calls for a humanitarian ceasefire.
Right, Haim. The special representatives meet with the UNSC was requested by the UK, US and France. Well, Israel's foreign minister asserted on a call for the release of the hostages as he accused the sexual crimes committed by Hamas worse than the terror actions carried out by Al-Qaeda, ISIS and other terror organizations.
Hamas is not speaking on behalf of the Muslim world, and we are asking you to condemn the sexual violence crimes these barbarians committed in the name of the Muslim religion. I'm demanding from the Security Council of the United Nations to put as much pressure as possible on the Hamas organization to release immediately and unconditionally all kidnapped hostages.
Now, the UN meeting, it took place against a backdrop of rising hunger in Gaza and as Muslims around the world celebrate the holy month of Ramadan. Israel continues to block the crucial humanitarian aid to the besieged enclave. The United Nations, it's already warned about the risk of a famine in the Gaza Strip.
And I repeat, as many of you have said, an immediate ceasefire. But Netanyahu's political survival requires for the onslaught to continue. And so here we are, 5 months later, with a genocide underway before the eyes of the world and with no end in sight.
Well, for more on the UN sexual violence report, our correspondent Susan Tehrani explains what the report exactly entails. Take a look.
The report by the Secretary General's Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patton, makes a number of recommendations, including urging all parties to agree to a ceasefire and for Hamas to release all hostages. She said, quote unquote, that the implicated parties in these hostilities have turned a blind eye on international law. The report also urges the government of Israel to grant access to the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the Independent International Commission for Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory, and that Israel itself carries out a full-fledged investigation on all the alleged violations that occurred on October 7th.
Now, Susan also further explained to us what Secretary General's Special Representative on Sexual Violence in the Conflict recommended be done moving forward.
So the overview on this report regarding sexual violence made headlines worldwide when it was released last week following a visit to the region by Pramila Patton in mid-February. According to the report, the special representative said that during the Hamas attacks on Israel in October, there are quote-unquote reasonable grounds to believe that the incidents of sexual violence indeed took place in at least 3 locations, including the Nova Music Festival. The findings also showed that hostages taken during the attack faced, quote, rape and sexualized torture and sexualized and cruel and inhumane and degrading treatment as well. It also has reasonable ground to believe that such violence may be ongoing inside of Gaza. Now, she made these comments on Monday as families of the hostages were in attendance at the Security Council meeting along with the Israeli foreign minister who had traveled to this meeting from Israel. Russia, for its part, however, during the meeting cast doubt on the UN report and its findings.
Meanwhile, building on his Thursday State of the Union speech,
including tax cuts for the middle class as well as price controls for the people. Take a look at this next report for more details on this.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday unveiled a $7.3 trillion election year budget, aimed at convincing skeptical Americans he can run the economy better than his Republican rival, Donald Trump. To help cut the deficit and pay for new programs, Biden wants to raise taxes by trillions on corporations and high earners.
You know, I may not get it done, but if you give me a Congress, I will. No, I'm serious.
Biden's budget for the 2025 fiscal year, which starts this October, includes raising the corporate income tax rate to 28%, forcing those with wealth of $100 million to pay at least 25% of their income in taxes, and letting the government negotiate to bring more drug costs down.
Look, this year Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs.
And a disregard for fiscal responsibility. Biden's campaign has struggled to shake voters' concerns about high prices and the U.S. economy's direction. According to a January Reuters Ipsos poll, 40% of Americans think Trump would handle the economy best, compared with 31% who picked Biden and 28% who either didn't know or refused to answer. White House budgets are always something of a presidential wish list, but that is even more so in the current political climate. U.S. agencies are currently operating without a full year 2024 budget, after hardline Republicans rejected an agreed-upon spending level.
Moving on now, the situation in Haiti has gone from bad to worse. Violence in the capital, Port-au-Prince, has flared up once again.
Right, heavily armed men attacked the National Palace and they set part of the Interior Ministry on fire with petrol bombs there.
Gang leaders, they're causing havoc in the region as they are determined to oust Prime Minister Ariel Henry. And in the latest, the gang leader, Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue, prevented hotel owners from hiding politicians, as he said that gangs are waging a bloody revolution that seeks to topple the Prime Minister.
Today, it is a whole system that we want to destroy. We take this opportunity to send a clear message to all the hotel owners in the country who take pleasure in hiding politicians. We will get on you step by step, such as Montana, Caribbean, and any hotels that hide politicians of the old school in their premises.
The Caribbean nation is going through a security and humanitarian crisis. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who is all set to attend the Caribbean community meeting, urged Caribbean leaders to help find a way to address the Haiti crisis.
Blinken said that the United States would contribute an additional $100 million to a UN-backed multinational security force intended to help Haitian police fight gangs, and $33 million as well in humanitarian aid.
Now, since 29th of February, gunmen have burnt police stations, closed the main international airports and raided the country's 2 biggest prisons, releasing more than 4,000 inmates. Scores of people have been killed and more than 15,000 are homeless after fleeing to neighborhoods raided by the gangs there.
All right, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a 12-state visit ahead of the general elections, and today the Prime Minister will be visiting the western states of Rajasthan and Gujarat.
Right, and there he will dedicate to the nation and lay foundation stone for various projects in these two states. Prime Minister Modi, along with delegates from 40 countries, will witness war exercise Bharat Shakti at the Pokhran firing field in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer. The war exercise will display firepower capability of indigenous weapons and operational readiness of the three arms of defense.
This exercise will showcase armed forces maneuvers and fighting capabilities. Before that, the Prime Minister will visit the dedicated Freight Corridor DFC Operation Control Center in Gujarat's Ahmedabad, where he will lay the foundation stone and dedicate several railway projects worth $10.2 billion.
Prime Minister Modi will also flag off 10 new Vande Bharat trains along some major national routes. Apart from this, Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating Kochrab Ashram. This was the first ashram established by Mahatma Gandhi after coming to India from South Africa in the year 1915.
And just ahead of the upcoming Lok Sabha polls, the Indian government has announced the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act.
Right, and the move to notify the rules of the Contentions Act, it comes days ahead of enforcement of the Model Code of Conduct for the upcoming polls in India.
Now, the CAA was an integral part of the Bharatiya Janata Party's manifesto for the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. It was passed by Parliament in December 2019, right after the Modi government won a second term.
And 4 years later, it is now set to become a reality. The Home Ministry has said that eligible individuals could submit their applications in a completely online mode, for which a web portal has been provided.
A few weeks ago, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that the law would be implemented before the Lok Sabha elections. Celebrations were seen at Hindu refugee camps after the implementation announcement.
The announcement has been met with fierce resistance from the opposition lawmakers. Kerala Chief Minister has described CAA as a communally divisive law and asserted that it will not be implemented in the state.
West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has said that she would oppose the Citizenship Amendment Act if it discriminates against groups of people, stating that the CAA and the NRC are sensitive to West Bengal and the Northeast. Banerjee said that she does not want unrest before the Lok Sabha elections.
दीदी एक सवाल था क्या राज्य में आप इम्प्लीमेंट होने देंगे सीए क्योंकि इससे पहले भी आपने कहा है कि एनआरसी बंगाल में लागू नहीं है
पहले मेरे को रूल्स देखने दीजिए आई एम जस्ट वाचिंग द नोटिफिकेशन अभी नोटिफिकेशन नहीं निकाला रूल्स नहीं निकाला रूल्स नोटिफिकेशन में अगर हम देखेंगे कि ये डिप्राइव कर रहा है लोगों का अधिकार को तो हम उसको खिलाफ में लड़ेंगे.
Well, looking at the sensitivity of the matter, especially amid the election season in India, security has been beefed up in and around sensitive areas of national capital, New Delhi. And these are the areas that saw violent demonstrations in 2019, in which more than 100 people died.
All right, and with that, it's time now for a short break.
Right, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, India's DRDO test-fired Agni-v ballistic missile with multiple warhead technology under mission Divyastra. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated DRDO scientists on the first flight test of Agni-v. We'll get you full details on the other side of this short break.
Also on the other side, Indian Union Minister of State for IT and Electronics Rajiv Chandrasekharan has announced the establishment of 10 AI labs in 10 colleges in Thiruvananthapuram. We'll get you all the details on this on the other side. Do stay tuned.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
South Africa, for WION, World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
From New York, we get you to the sandy shores of Durban, where I'll bring you all the glitz, glam, and happenings from the world of showbiz.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
South Africa, for WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
From New York, we get you to the sandy shores of Durban, where I'll bring you all the glitz, glam, and happenings from the world of showbiz.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
world is one.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. And here's what we've lined up for you on this side of the show.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to witness Bharat Shakti, a synergized demonstration of indigenous defense capabilities in the form of a tri-services live fire and maneuver exercise in Rajasthan's Pokhran today.
Ishaq Dar becomes Pakistan's foreign minister as President Asif Ali Zardari administers the oath to the 19-member federal cabinet of newly elected Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval meets Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, discusses regional issues and the urgent need to address the issue of humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Repeated calls for ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza at the United Nations as the world body discusses the sexual violence allegations.
US President Joe Biden unveils his policy vision for the United States, announces a $7.3 trillion spending wish list that is as much an election year pitch to voters as a policy proposal.
Former US President Donald Trump will not give money to help Ukraine fight Russia if he wins presidency again, and that will hasten an end to the war, says Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán after meeting him.
Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka overpowers Emma Raducanu to reach the fourth round at Indian Wells. Reigning US champion Coco Gauff also advances to the last 16.
All right, Resha, let's start with all the updates that are coming in from India. India's Defence Research and Development Organisation test-fired Agni-v ballistic missiles with multiple warhead technology under mission Divyastra.
Right, Heyman. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated DRDO scientists on the first flight test of Agni-v.
Now, this indigenously developed weapons system aims to alter the country's geopolitical and strategic position and significantly change the situation in Southeast Asia. The Agni-v MIRV missile was developed by DRDO over a decade ago, and the new weapons system, it has multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle technology, also known as I mentioned earlier, the MIRV technology. This technology enables a single missile to deploy multiple nuclear warheads and hit targets at different locations.
Earlier, this technology was limited to just 5 countries, which are UK, US, Russia, France and China. But the latest test has successfully added India's name to that list, within days of India issuing an alert for an impending missile test off the Odisha coast. A Chinese research vessel has raced up India's eastern seaboard. Reports claim that the Chinese vessel is just 460 kilometers off the coast of Visakhapatnam. Currently, the Chinese ship Xiangyang Hong 01 is anchored in the international waters. And according to the Indian Navy, the vessel is operating outside the exclusive economic zone in the Bay of Bengal.
Intelligence inputs indicate that spy vessel is bound for Sri Lankan port for operational turnaround, even though Sri Lanka declared a 1-year moratorium against survey vessels last December. Reports claim that the Ranil Wickremesinghe government is under pressure to allow the docking here.
Right, Haim, on the world of business now. As the cost of the war in Ukraine continues to mount, the Russian government is mulling several drastic tax hikes.
They intend to raise 4 trillion rubles. A Bloomberg report quoting sources showed tax hikes on corporate profits and high-earning individuals, which are now being considered as well.
And those with annual incomes of more than 5 million rubles may see their taxes increase to 20% from 15% and businesses to 25% from 20%. But the Russian President Vladimir Putin has already stated his intention to reform the tax system after he returns for a new 6-year term in this week's elections. In a February 29 speech to the lawmakers and officials at Russia's Federal Assembly, Putin said that he wanted, and I'm quoting here, a more equitable distribution of the tax burden towards those with higher personal and corporate incomes, unquote.
Currently, incomes up to 5 million rubles per year are subject to 13% tax rate in Russia, with rates increasing to 15% beyond that threshold. Many more Russians would be lifted out of the lowest tax band if the proposed changes were implemented. This will reduce the 15% threshold to 1 million rubles and raise it to 20% on incomes above 5 million rubles. The government views the start of a new presidential term as a chance to implement controversial reforms.
Putin quickly increased the value-added tax from 18% to 20% and instituted a controversial pension age rise shortly after his most recent re-election in 2018. As the Russian economy struggles under the weight of foreign sanctions, the Kremlin is spending more money on its war on Ukraine. At the end of last year, about half the national wealth fund's available reserves had been used. There was a 1.5 trillion ruble deficit in the federal budget at the end of February this year. The finance ministry has predicted a further 1.6 trillion ruble deficit for the year 2024. In yet another hit for a deepening property crisis, Moody's Ratings revoked the investment-grade credit rating of state-backed property developer China Vanke.
And warned of possible further downgrades as well. The ratings agency predicts credit metrics and liquidity are to weaken because of falling home sales and funding uncertainties. This is viewed as a symbol of Beijing's backing for influential developers with close links to the government.
However, Moody's decision to cut Vanke's bonds to junk status is expected to further undermine faith in China's real estate market. The two biggest banks in the country oppose Vanke's plans for a fresh offshore loan of $4.5 billion Hong dollars, which is approximately $575 million. This will put the government support to the test.
And according to the S&P Global Ratings in Fitch, the company is still not junk. If either of the agencies cut their ratings, Vanke will be demoted to the status of a fallen angel. Bondholders in high-grade bonds may decide to then sell their holdings. Concern about the developer's ability to repay its debt have recently driven down the price of its bonds and shares to record lows.
Vanke is also facing pressure from several major insurers that have become concerned over potential liquidity stress at the builder. They're seeking to protect their privately issued debt. At least 3 Beijing-based insurers sent executives to Vanke's headquarters in Shenzhen recently to discuss debt repayment plans under the local government's coordination.
For now, the latest move by Moody's adds to growing concerns on China's deepening property crisis. All right, now let's take a look at what's happening in the world of technology. If you've received a WhatsApp message asking you to invest in a trading platform with promises of quick and easy returns, beware, it's likely a scam.
Right. Cyber attacks are becoming increasingly common in today's time and more sophisticated around the world. This is the latest. A 43-year-old man from the Indian state of Hyderabad lost around $107,000 to WhatsApp investment scam. Well, the man received a message on WhatsApp offering lucrative returns on online stock trading and initial public offerings.
Attracted by the high returns, the man joined the trading platform recommended by the scammers. The victim soon realized that he had been scammed since he was unable to withdraw any funds from his virtual trading accounts. So, the question is, how does this scam work? And what can you do to protect yourself from such scams?
Moving on, in a major boost to India's artificial intelligence ecosystem, Indian Union Minister of State for IT and Electronics, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, announced the establishment of 10 AI labs in 10 colleges in Trivandrum.
Now, the AI colleges will be set up under the recently announced India AI mission. While speaking at a conference, Chandrasekhar said that the labs will be operated with the technical help of global AI giant. The identity of the global AI giant, that's yet to be announced.
He said, and I'm quoting him here, "We have got applications from 17 colleges and as a first phase, AI labs will be allocated to 10 of them. The names are yet to be finalized."
Meanwhile, it's not just Kerala. More AI labs will be announced in other parts of India as well at a later stage, however. The Indian government had recently announced the India AI mission. As part of the mission, the Indian government will invest around $1.25 billion in artificial intelligence projects, and this includes developing computing infrastructure and Make in India large language models.
Well, let's now take a look at stories that are making headlines, the world of sports.
Cole Palmer continues to show why he is Chelsea's best player.